No, we're running out of time. I'm just gonna have to use my own energy to stop them.
Hi, this is Simon Candish and welcome to another marvelous video. The Transformers have several different iterations, especially regarding their origins. Some mention the Quintessence being their sole creator, while the Oracle computer had a whole new level of understanding. However, certain characters and events do not change their place in the stories, like Optimus, whose name has always been associated with being the leader of the Autobots. There is one such character that we all tend to miss, and that is Alpha Trion. There are different versions of this character in different forms of media, but there is only one thing that is common. Be it in any media, Alpha Trion's name is always mentioned in the history of the Cybertronians. According to stories, he was the main reason why the Transformers had access to their free will. So without any further delay, let us dive into today's video, where we will be exploring Alpha Trion. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin.
But what you can do, I have held the matrix of leadership for many years.
Who is Alpha Trion? Following up with the Generation of Continuity series, the Transformers were created by the Quintessence. The Quintessence were a bizarre ancient race who were mainly into disputable transactions and rarely operated clean without any manipulation. 11 million years ago, in a factory world, the Quintessence created the Transformers for the purpose of serving them. They created the Autobots for domestic purposes and the Decepticons for the military. However, owing to the harsh way of their creators, they started developing widespread hostility towards them. At some point, an Autobot named A3 started revolting against them, which soon became a widespread rebellion across Cybertron. He created a device named the Coda Remote that could stop their Dark Guardian, enforcers of the Quintessence rule. Owing to the time rift created by the Quintessence from the future, A3 was transported into the year 2006, during which the rebellion was led by his partner, Beta. In 2006, the future Autobots managed to help A3 return to his timeline to fulfill his role. Eventually, the Transformers triumphed, and the Quintessence were forced to retreat from the planet. The Transformers were free, and A3 adopted the name Alpha Trion. At some point, he was offered the Matrix of Leadership by the Sentinel Prime, but refrained from becoming Autobots' leader. He instead preferred sitting in his position and looking for a new leader for the Autobots. He eventually upgraded the Autobots to match with the military variant of the Transformers, the Decepticons, and also to better oppose their growing menace. Sometime later, a group of time travelers brought a damaged youth Transformer named Orion Pax to his repair center. Initially, Alpha Trion hesitated, but after sensing a strong spirit in the Transformer, he repaired him and upgraded him to Optimus Prime. Alpha Trion also repaired Orion's fallen girlfriend, Ariel, who was then named Elita 1. Later, after 5 million years, when Optimus crash-landed on prehistoric Earth, he was lost, but Alpha Trion maintained his connection with Elita, acting as a mentor and advisor. Elita was then leading her team of female Autobots into stealing Energon from the Shockwave, who soon realized and followed them back to the base. Elita was finally captured by the Decepticons, who used her as bait to lure Optimus Prime. Elita was brutally damaged, and Optimus took her to Alpha Trion once again to save her. Alpha Trion saved her with the help of Prime's energy. Optimus and Elita united, but soon had to part ways once again. After a while, Megatron and his Decepticons attacked an unguarded Alpha Trion in his workshop and demanded the key to Vector Sigma. Soon, the Decepticons overpowered him and left with the key. The Autobots later rescued Alpha Trion from a chunk of metal and repaired him, following which they began their journey to the depths of Cybertron in search of the mega computer, Vector Sigma. However, they were delayed enough by the Centurion droids commanded by Megatron to let the Decepticons use Vector Sigma and bring the Stunticons to life. To counter these new Decepticons, Optimus Prime suggested Alpha Trion create Autobots that could fly. Unfortunately, this required Vector Sigma, and without the key, it would not work. With no other solution, Alpha Trion decided to sacrifice his own existence and provide his life force as a key for the purpose. Alpha Trion soon merged with Vector Sigma and activated the newest Autobots, the aerial bots. Since then, Alpha Trion did not appear in physical form, but frequently aided Optimus in his ventures via Vector Sigma. Sometime in the year 2006, a red virus created by two human scientists, Gregory Swarford and Jessica Morgan, had spread throughout the entire universe. It was called the Hate Plague and infected living beings with hatred, causing them to attack anyone without reason. With no solution to think of, Optimus entered the Matrix of Leadership for aid from the ancient Autobots and found Alpha Trion, who warned him about his journey into the Matrix. Later, when the Decepticons had stolen the key to the plasma energy chamber, Optimus had again sought advice from Alpha Trion.
No, we're running out of time. I'm just gonna have to use my own energy to stop them.
Alpha Trion in Prime cartoon and in the Headmasters cartoon. According to the Prime cartoon, Prime has created 13 Primes to defeat Unicron, and Alpha Trion was the third of them. He trained with Quintus Prime, Liege Maximo, and Micronus Prime, and preferred to make strategies to win combats, instead of relying completely on strength. Eventually, the 13 Primes defeated Unicron and became rebuilding Cybertron on their terms. Megatronus Prime and Solus Prime shared romantic feelings for one another and celebrated mutual love. At the same time, Trion collaborated with Vector Prime and Primer and worked on establishing a government which would help preserve order for future civilizations. Quintus Prime, however, was working on unethical experiments which involved organizing fights amongst specially engineered robotic beasts. As things were slowly winding into place, Liege Maximo's manipulations led to the accidental death of Solus Prime at the hands of Megatronus. Moreover, Maximo framed Megatronus as completely responsible for the manipulation. This eventually led to a battle amongst the 13 Primes, and they all ended up falling into a cavern, knocking Alpha Trion unconscious temporarily. When he gained his senses back, a lot of destruction had already happened. Maximo had been blown apart, and Onyx Prime was severely wounded by the special robotic beasts of Quintus Prime. They tried recovering from their losses firstly by constructing a tomb for Solus Prime. Megatronus, unable to withstand the loss of his beloved, departed into space and called himself the Fallen, while Alpha Trion and Alchemist Prime worked into building strategies to revitalize planet Cybertron. The 13 Primes then entered the Well of All Sparks and activated it, giving birth to the Cybertronians. Primer planned to install the T-Gogs into these transformers, but it was only known to him and Alpha Trion. One of the robots, named Orion Pax, volunteered to enter the well so as to learn more about the new Transformer civilization and was reborn as the new shape of the 13th Prime. After Cybertron's golden age, when Sentinel Zeta Prime began enforcing a caste system amongst the Cybertronians, Alpha Trion sought to get access to the Matrix of Leadership and use it to revitalize the planet, but he was stopped by Vector Sigma, who reassured him that it would happen when the right time arrived. Vector Sigma gave Alpha Trion a badge of Vector Prime to hand over to Sentinel as a gift. The badge reacted with Alpha Trion's copy of the Covenant and his quill and advised to reawaken the 13th Prime. Alpha Trion also agreed with the idea, as he believed Orion needed a sparring partner. He soon went into exile within the Hall of Records and grew fascinated watching the exploits of a gladiator robot, D16, who had adopted the nickname Megatronus. Alpha Trion encouraged Megatronus and Orion Pax to become friends, which they did, and soon became intellectually sparring partners. After a meeting at the council, Orion was chosen to be the new Prime, which made Megatronus jealous. This soon led to the beginning of the Great War. In order to protect the different artifacts of the Primes from the Decepticon forces, Trion launched as many artifacts as possible to Earth. Soon, the majority of the Transformers left planet Cybertron, which was left with Alpha Trion, Wreckers, Dinobots, and a few Autobots. The Headmaster comics also showcased the ancient Transformer Alpha Trion, as shown in the Mystery of Planet Master in the year 2010. Optimus purged the universe of Hate Plague by releasing the energy of the Matrix, for which a year later, Vector Sigma began destabilizing. Optimus began his journey to the depths of the planet in hopes to bring the computer back online. But it was futile, as this time he did not have the Matrix to guide him. However, a spectral form of Alpha Trion was shown, which helped Prime overcome different obstacles and dangers throughout the path to Vector Sector Sigma. Unfortunately, the Decepticons arrived and overwhelmed them. The young Autobot, Hot Rod, was nearby with the recovered Matrix when the spectral form of Alpha Trion reappeared and instructed Hot Rod to hold the talisman aloft. Soon, the spectral flowed into the Matrix and recharged it, which then transformed Hot Rod into Rodimus Prime. The two Primes, Rodimus and Optimus, then fought the Decepticons and defeated them.
Prime. But I fear that Iacon will not withstand the next Decepticon.
Alpha Trion in comic series. Alpha Trion had noticeable appearances in comics with different scenarios and situations. In the G2 story pages, when Megatron brutally injured Optimus Prime in a battle, the spirit of Alpha Trion was shown. The spirit of Alpha Trion, along with other former leaders residing within the Matrix, activated its reconfiguration matrix, which revived the damaged Optimus Prime into a battle convoy. In the Legend comics, Alpha Trion managed to attain a physical form of his own. In Tailgate or G1 Minicon chapter, he had a hand in transforming Rodimus Prime into a Micromaster. Alpha Trion later reappeared in the Resurrection chapter, where he was summoned from the Matrix by Battle Convoy for assistance in reviving Ultra Magnus, who was then essential to counter the rise of Galvatron 2. Trion located the spirit of Ultra Magnus within the Matrix and requested him to get back to the world of the living for help. Alpha Trion had a unique connection with the Matrix, using which he used to act as a substitute Matrix and bring the Autobots back to life. Trion restored himself in a tiny body that resided in the chest of Ultra Magnus and popped up when he needed. Later, in Bonus Edition 14, Alpha Trion was shown to be hiding in disguise as a janitor at the Axelon Trading Company in the Legends world, where Megatron would be making his move to return back to his evil ways. When the employees of the company got suspicious about their new office, which was actually Metroplex, Alpha Trion tried to explain to them about the city's bot past and ended up blowing his cover. In the Autumn Megatron Festival chapter, Alpha Trion was present when Megatron teamed up with Armada Megatron and tried to conquer the Legends world. Alpha Trion came out of his disguise and used an Ultra Drill to bring Ultra Magnus from their home universe. With the arrival of Ultra Magnus, the two Megatrons were defeated, and Alpha Trion was sure about his ability to predict the future. He predicted the arrival of three Transformers: Nightbird Shadow, Slipstream, and Black Arachnia. In Bonus Edition Volume 17, Alpha Trion was shown to be disguised as a janitor again, who overheard Megatron's plans of stealing energy from people. He quickly summoned Chromia into the Legends world as reinforcement. He also stopped Armada Starscream from sacrificing himself to prevent Windblade from destroying Legends world by bringing Alexis from his home world. At some point, he was caught up in an attack by Megatron, who had transformed into Galvatron again. Terracura managed to purchase Metroplex from Axelon, and Alpha Trion joined the company to be close to Metroplex. At some point during a battle between Ultra Magnus and Sixshot, Alpha Trion contributed his power to Ultra Magnus by entering his chest. He managed to recover his Ultra Drill and opened a portal to push Zarak through it, who was then destroying the Legends world. Megatron then suggested Alpha Trion to open portals all over the world and transport all the citizens to G1 world. In Wings of Honor, Alpha Trion was a custodian of a mysterious item that was brought to him by the Alpha unit of the Elite Guard. Alpha Trion also had prominent presence in the Wings universe. The Decepticon rebellion was growing fierce, following which Counselor Magnum, with the help of his special Decepticon hunting strike team, killed several Decepticon warlords. Soon Magnum and Trion started developing political differences, but without affecting their duty. Times arrived when the two asked for assistance from each other. During a Decepticon attack, Dion and Magnum were crucially injured, following which they were taken to the Alpha Trion. Despite his efforts, Trion could save only one of them and rebuilt him to become Ultra Magnus. In Battle Lines Part 6, Cybertron's energy had depleted owing to the recent war, and Optimus had left the planet in search of energy. With low chances of surviving on the planet, Alpha Trion built status pods, within which most of the Autobot citizens could hibernate. Many centuries later, after the Great Transformation, Cheetor was shown to be interacting with the Oracle computer for assistance from Optimus Prime. After many unsuccessful attempts, Cheetor succeeded and met Alpha Trion. Alpha Trion showed Cheetor his destiny. Cheetor accepted it and merged with Alpha Trion, forming Alpha Trizer. In Deviation Comics, there was also an alternate universe where Optimus Prime had killed Megatron during the Battle of Autobot City. 3H Comics, which was also a part of the same continuity, revolved around the time when the Quintesson oppressors were making life miserable for the Transformers. Alpha Trion was showcased as a robot A3, the one who started the rebellion. Later, when Megatron ruled Cybertron, Alpha Trion returned back in the form of a lion to guide Optimus Prime and his Wrecker. When Unicron posed a threat to the entire multiverse, Alpha Trion still merged with Vector Sigma and summoned Optimus Prime back from the dead in order to rescue Cybertronians that had been abducted recently. Primal wasn't sure of taking the responsibility of such an important task, but he was goaded by Alpha Trion. According to Dreamwave Generation, one continuity eons ago, Alpha Trion was one who watched over the Transformers during the absence of Primus, who had entered his eternal sleep to hide Cybertron from the evil Unicron. Unfortunately, an invading nomadic alien race conquered Cybertron, slaughtering thousands of Transformers. Unable to act, Alpha Trion went into hiding and performed actions which saved his race. Later, after the Great Shutdown, Shockwave planned an attack on Alpha Trion with the help of Scourge. Alpha Trion was incapacitated and hung on the wall in Shockwave's laboratory for analysis. As Shockwave's plans reached results, Alpha Trion managed to tamper with his system and brought his ultimate demise. In more than meets the eye, Alpha Trion served as a protector of the supercomputer Vector Sigma from the Golden Age to the Great War. Alpha Trion was also mentioned in the G.I. Joe vs. the Transformers series. While downloading some of the Soundwave's memories, Serpent OR learned about Alpha Trion and his rebellion against the Quintessons. In the 2005 IDW continuity, Alpha Trion emerged as the leader of the 13 tribes as a prime. This was 12 million years ago, and he was known as a record keeper of the Cybertronian history. Trion at some point joined forces with the Alchemist, Vector, Nexus, and Solus Prime, and established a village that they named as Crystal City. Their establishment was opposed first by the advancing armies of the Darklands. Megatronus was the leader of the Darklanders, and after a fierce battle, Onyx Prime managed to reach up to Megatronus and convince him for a truce. Onyx was, however, an identity that the time-traveling Shockwave had adopted to start a war between the Darklanders and the Crystal City to bring all the Primes under a single banner. This was one of the several historical paradoxes that would affect Cybertronian history. In the next 2 million years, the Primes were joined by 5 more, and led by Primer, Alpha Trion became a popular storyteller known as the Trion. Throughout the course of time, none of them realized that the true motives of Onyx, who kept manipulating them. Onyx then goaded Primer to commission an interstellar mission to spread the enlightened civilization of Cybertron to neighboring worlds. They reached the Organics world of Antea, who fought back against them. Without Trion's approval, Onyx announced that the planet now belonged to Alpha Trion. After their return, Onyx began creating manipulative events in order to infuriate Megatronus, enough to kill Solus Prime and go for overthrowing Primer. He framed Leech Maximo, who lost his right to reside in Cybertron amongst Cybertronians. The Primes imprisoned Leech Maximo aboard Vigilem. In an attempt to avenge the death of Solus Prime, Primer, Onyx, and Alpha Trion began their journey to find Megatronus. They found him in the barren world of Takeshi. Primer and Onyx confronted, but Alpha Trion stayed behind. Soon Onyx returned, stating that Primer sacrificed himself to kill Megatronus, which was a lie, as Onyx allowed Megatronus to kill Primer, following which he killed Megatronus. Unfortunately, Alpha Trion believed his story, and it was also noted down in the history of Cybertron. The Primes were then lesser in number and divided from within. This soon created a hostile polarity, which eventually led to civil war. A warrior named Galvatron killed Nexus Prime, revealing to the rest that the Primes were not immortal. Following this, the other Primes began fleeing from the planet, except Alpha Trion, who remained. In a desperate attempt to stop the war, Alpha Trion met Galvatron during the Battle of Aegiax and requested him to help him to stop the war in exchange for whatever he wanted. The last follower of Primer and Galvatron defeated the remaining Onyx forces, and Alpha Trion eagerly introduced himself to Nova. Restoring peace back to Cybertron, Nova began decoding the secrets of the 13 Primes, beginning with Nexus Prime's Enigma combination. Nova and Galvatron left Cybertron in the Ark and were lost somewhere in space. Alpha Trion Trion dedicated lectures honoring them. All of these were a result of Shockwave's manipulation, and hence it would be the basis of the timeline's manipulation. Orion Pax was born, and Alpha Trion noticed something special about him. Orion Pax would soon grow up and join a mission with Nightbeat. The two were aided by Alpha Trion and would reach the treacherous Rust spots to swap Decepticons prisoners for captured Ratchet. It was then revealed that this was a plan orchestrated by the Decepticons, who wanted to capture Alpha Trion in order to locate Metroplex. However, with the aid of Orion Pax's valiant actions, they managed to escape. When Orion Pax became Optimus Prime, he broadcasted a message to all Cybertronians to help him fight against the Decepticons. Alpha Trion assisted Optimus during his fights. Sometime later, in an attempt to investigate Shockwave's Regenesis plan and also to keep Metroplex away from the Decepticons, Alpha Trion left Cybertron with Metroplex. He learned that Shockwave had not seeded his miraculous ores at random, but specifically to those planets he believed the 13 Primes had gone to. The two returned to Cybertron in 1997, the time by which Cybertron had become uninhabitable due to war. Alpha Trion tried fixing it, and over the next decade, he tried freeing the planet's atmosphere of corrosive elements. After 2008, there was another problem. A monstrous Insecticon swarm had covered the planet, and Alpha Trion summoned Ironhide to do the job. After Ironhide completed his task, Alpha Trion left again to investigate more about Shockwave's motives. In 2012, he finally inferred that the enigma of combination had landed on Earth. He immediately left for Earth as he did not want Shockwave to get it first. In order to defeat the next phase of Shockwave's grand scheme alone, Alpha Trion departed from Metroplex. Alpha Trion arrived on Earth just before Shockwave carried out the last part of his plan, but he was tragically shot down by the Earth Defense Command, and both he and his ship were interred for research at the EDC's main facility on the Bikini Atoll. Trion was unable to turn around and assist when his Titan companion became infected with an alchemical virus. Since he had already set course for Earth to recover what he dubbed the Holy Grail, after coming into contact with the Vis Vitalis, he persuaded city speaker Windblade and her fellow Camians Chromia and Nautica to use their city-speaking abilities to help the Titan in Thunderclash's place. After eventually getting to know Optimus, Windblade relayed Trion's message, and Optimus set off with a group of Autobots to find him. Jazz invaded the EDC headquarters a month later and came into contact with him while looking into EDC's use of Cybertronian technology. Prowl stopped Jazz from saving Alpha Trion right away to look into this more, because he knew he was connected to an alert that the EDC's mind bomb couldn't have been made from his only brain. Alpha Trion's happy reunion with Optimus Prime was cut short by a coughing episode, which prompted Jetfire to take him away and have a look at his injuries. After disarming the Sirens, they seized Alpha Trion and departed on Sky Lynx. Alpha Trion's appearance in the IDW continuity is immense and one of the most detailed presences. He appeared and saved the day on several other occasions. The Vision of the Future comic series showcased Alpha Trion in a small visual. During the reformatting of Cybertron, Ironhide and G-Axis started having visions. The file included Prime narrating the history of their race to young Transformers. Alpha Trion was also shown as an inspirational figure in Beast Wars Uprising, exemplifying the right qualities of a true Autobot. During an interaction of Overshoot with the Oracle computer, he witnesses glimpses of Cybertron's long history along with Alpha Trion wielding his quill. In the Prime Wars trilogy, Alpha Trion joins hands with the Titan Master Sovereign, who gave him the power of Primus. Alpha Trion and Globber found an ancient artifact connected to the Titans and the Titan Masters on the planet Eucharis. The two Autobots were ambushed by a group of Decepticons who wanted to steal the artifacts for themselves, but Apeface was able to blow their cover and give the Autobots time to defend themselves. Alpha Trion's spark eventually fell into the hands of one of 12 Prime Masters, who kept the powers of the Prime safe until the present day, while hiding themselves inside a set of fake armor. The Prime Master could channel Trion's spark powers through a larger transformer, giving them special powers that change with each new companion. Alpha Trion was also present in the 2019 IDW continuity. He was known to be active in the days before the War of the Threefold Spark and gave lessons of sympathy and compassion to his student Ultra Magnus. Soon, Alpha Trion had left Cybertron in search of ancient Cybertronian artifacts across the universe, which brought him to the Decimus Sector. He negotiated for the use of Quirorah Quarian spacecraft after learning that Spinster's team had mapped the Black Sphere region and finally ended up in Sound Blaster's organization, learning that Spinster's team had mapped the Black Sphere region. Ultra Magnus embarked on a hunt for Trion. Even though he had left a number of signal markers, their position with respect to the black hole provided an inflated picture of how long he had been gone. Just as Sound Blaster's ship was being attacked by a fleet of starships, Trion holographically projected himself to his protege on the planet Obsidar. Sound Blaster, owing to his obsession with his profits, refused to let Alpha Trion leave, forcing Ultra Magnus to intervene and rescue Alpha Trion, who immediately fled to the Fist of Iacon after observing that the Quarians were unlikely to surrender, leaving the ship for the black hole to consume. As they made their way back to the base, the crew learned that Megatron had toppled the Senate, but Alpha Trion reassured everyone that they would overcome this crisis and come out stronger as a result, if they had trusted in their cause and courage.
Is it truly you, Alpha Trion?
Conclusion. When it comes to turning back the pages of history, the Cybertronian Alpha Trion is a monumental figure. He is benevolent and loves guiding or mentoring his followers. Be it with or without his physical presence, his guidance is priceless, and even the strongest Autobot obliges to what he asks for. The character's presence in the cinematic world would definitely change the entire course of the movie, and we are all eagerly waiting to see Alpha Trion in the cinematic universe. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.
Miss Prime, put the power back above your head.